Hey, welcome to Men On, our weekly show where we're men on lots of different topics. And I'm Tony Scott, and that's Troy Johnson, and that is Mark Clark. And happy Father's Day, gentlemen.
Same to you, sir.
We record on Father's Day, so very good, very good. Man, lots of things going on. Casey Kasem passed away. Casey, for a lot of us, was an inspiration growing up. You know, his story. I forgot that he was of Lebanese descent. His name was actually Kamal.
Yeah.
And he was born in Michigan, or grew up in Michigan, and he was 82 years old. Lots of drama, though, behind what happened. Some people say his wife, Jean, who actually was Nick Tortelli's wife on Cheers back in the day, is the one who killed him, is what people are saying. She allegedly had his food tube removed, his feeding tube, and then she took him up to Washington State against doctors' advice, supposedly, where doctors were saying, if you do this, you might kill him. There's a good chance that you're going to kill him. And I don't know if, I mean, the man was 82. He was not in the best of health, but did this help things along? I can't imagine that it didn't, you know, have some effect on him. You can't be in poor health at 82 and just be moving him around like he's a teenager.
Yeah, but I think it might have been time to go, though. You know, here's a vibrant, energetic guy, you know, who's an amazing guy. I think sometimes families like your wife, especially, is like, you know what? Hey, babies, maybe it's time to pack it in.
Yeah.
It's time for me to get new.
Damn, but she could have just left him at the hospice if she wanted to do all that. I mean,
really?
You know.
I mean, you know, I mean, his
family was
kid,
fighting for him, though.
They were fighting. They were picking over the bones, man, and that's just kind of sad. Now I understand there may be some drama over his body now.
Oh Lord, he's not going to be in that same place they had James Brown for a year.
You know. Well, let's not hope they did. There's somebody named May in New Orleans, and I've got the link on talking360.com. Did you see this story, man? May,
yes.
Apparently she loved the Saints. She loved her Bud Light, and she loved her cigarettes, and she loved hanging out. And so she died. She's gone to glory. But her daughter decided, you know what? That's what everybody remembered of. So they propped her body up at a table, put a disco light down on the floor, put a Bud Light, a cigarette in her hand, her shades on, her fingernails were painted Saints colors. And this is how people can visit her at the funeral home.
Turned down for what?
Death? Turned down for death? I didn't realize that was. I didn't realize that was her. I saw the picture. I didn't realize her. I thought that was her aunt. Go ahead, girl. She made death look good.
No, it never looked so bad, man. Come on, that looked
man. It didn't look good.
Especially that Newport sticking out of her hand. That was.
I'm saying this now, man. We're tight. Don't let anybody put no headphones on me, a proper Sennheiser in front of me, a microphone, or Electrode 420 in front of me, man, and make it look like a studio, man. Put me in a coffin. Don't let anybody take a picture, and let me rest in peace.
Tony, we're gonna have a GoPro camera in one hand,
a green screen in the back of the funeral.
Right.
Gonna line the coffin with green screen cloth, with muslin cloth, man. That's
we're gonna have the green screen, and then Doc Winter will be in the background.
Oh, and Tony's gonna have a remote control in the other hand, trying to tune in the Cardinals game.
You know, I love my Cardinals, man. So,
Tony, do you still love potato chips, by the way?
I do love potato chips. I don't eat them. I haven't had a potato chip. It's been a while.
Damn.
I kind of switched
It's
to
been
pita
so long.
chips.
It's been so long. Mamie was alive.
Yeah, May was alive then, man. So there you go, man. So Donald Sterling has decided this is the game plan. I've hired 50 private investigators, and they're going to look for dirt on all the NBA owners, and then I'm going to say, hey, I got this on them. What are you going to do about it? So you got this on me. I got this on them. I think the man has lost his mind. Now, his neurologist or a neurologist in court says the man can't sort out the numbers on a clock. You know, and so, you know, I understand Alzheimer's. I've got relatives with Alzheimer's, dementia, that whole thing. So I don't wish that on anybody. But if that's what he has, any form of it, should he be in charge of an NBA team? I mean, the racist comments aside, if he's not well, I mean, should he be running an NBA team? I mean, even his estranged wife is saying, you know.
I'm a little confused by Donald Sterling. I mean, that's an understatement, but when he was interviewed by Anderson Cooper, he seemed like a rational human being, seemed like somebody who knew what he was up to. You know, I mean, obviously he doesn't really have much of a filter on his mouth, and he says what he wants to say. But I just chalk that up to being an 82-year-old man, you know. And so that when that Donald Sterling, the old man who's ranting and raving, didn't seem like a guy who was suffering from Alzheimer's. You know, he seemed lucid enough to make the decision that he wanted to make. So I can't quite understand this either. I mean, which one is it?
Well, but that's we've only seen him on that TV in that interview that one time.
I mean, but what was that supposed to be a good day? I mean, he did wear house shoes to the interview. I know y'all saw that.
Well, the thing is, you know, I think, like you said, he could be crazy like a fox in that the story of him uncovering the dirt that's an angle, but the other story is of him also them bringing in other neurologists who may in fact prove that he's not suffering from, you know, suffering from that. And if that's the case, if they find those who show that, then there's a possibility that it will challenge his wife's ability to move forward and clog up the whole situation. So I think that's I think that's the big play. Yeah, because that's what everything's based on. He's out of the way because he was declared not fit.
But David Silver felt pretty good. Yeah, I was watching the finals. By the way, Miami's about to lose. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that. But David Silver in an interview was like, you know, the bylines. She could legally move the team. You know, nobody. She was the person who could execute the contract. So he had that look like, yeah, you know what? We're not worried about this.
I don't know. I think they're worried.
I think they're worried too. I think they're worried too, though. So I was kind of worried about Tracy Morgan for a while because that accident was like it was horrific, and you know, and then the rumor went around that he was getting his leg amputated, and then they say no, he's not getting his leg amputated. And then there was a video going around of him. I looked like he was laying in a hospital bed doing some kind of quick video. But that was from like 2-3 years ago. But people were taking and running with it, saying that he shot it in the hospital, and he didn't shoot it in the hospital.
What about on Facebook, that new thing, which I hate, where they have these false stories that make you click on them. You know, I mean, they don't make you click on them, but you click on them because you're interested. And one false story said that he was dead. And it was R.I.P. Tracy Moore, and I was like,
that was going around too. But see, that's
what kind of heartless person would play that card, man?
That's the irresponsibility of people. And that's why I always say there should be a test required before you can own a computer, because you know, just some people don't have the right to do that. You know, it's just you shouldn't have the right to have a computer. Some people shouldn't have the right to procreate. I mean, it's just one of those things. But it's the world we live in. But I did see that his mom was turned away from the hospital, which kind of split a lot of people looking on social media. Some people were like, how can you do that to your mother? How could his girlfriend turn her away? What right does she have to do this and that? Well, we don't know the backstory. Well, just because you're somebody's mother don't mean you're somebody's mama.
Well, in his book, they have a volatile relationship. So
yeah.
And by the way, I would get his book on tape is hilarious, and it's also very insightful and very touching. But he talks about the tough relationship he has with his mom, you know.
So if you would have been in her place, her being his girlfriend, would you have taken the bull by the horns and refused her to see her son?
If I felt like she would upset him, yes. You know, he's on the brink of dying, and the mother is somebody's oil and water. I would probably be like, no, you know. No. Yeah,
but she eventually got in the next day.
Yeah,
and she wanted to have the room to herself, but nobody would leave, and I can't say that I blame them based on what I've heard about their relationship. I don't know if I would. Now I'm not calling the woman a killer, but I don't know if I would have left her in the room alone with this man, knowing how he feels about her.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think Mark hit it on the head. You don't know how these relationships have been. You know, and ultimately, hey, if she got a chance to see him, then good. She got to see her son, and, you know, it wasn't on your terms. I mean, this is the chickens coming home to roost for you parents out there that are abusing your kids or whatever. I don't know what she did to him. But, you know, I mean, hey, and it's much more, you know, the 21st century has shown us that people don't give a damn anymore. They're not worried. They're not worried about what it looks like.
Right.
You know,
right.
If we got a problem, we can't come out in solidarity and look like a family front if in fact there's a problem. Because I'm not having it, and I'm not going to let you get away with whatever you did. So, which, you know, I guess is a more honest, is a good thing. But, you know, some people, you know, going to have them torn drawers look, you know.
That's his mama. You know, you're right. You're right, Troy. I think that is growth. I think you're right. I think people of color especially have a lot of times have kind of put stuff under the rug and swept things under the rug and not really dealt with anything truthfully, because of the repercussions, because of how it looks, though airing out dirty laundry. So it's a catch-22. I think you're right. I think there's some growth in that when you're able to just be like honest. But sadly, the whole world now is in on your honesty.
Yes.
You know, I was thinking about that earlier, and I didn't make a note of this, but it just popped in my head because I read a headline earlier about how T.I. did an interview where he kind of, I won't say he trashed Tiny, but apparently they're not together. He's saying that she's disloyal to him, you know. And to me, it's like, man, take that stuff offline, man. You know, don't play it out. You got kids who get on the internet, kids who understand these things. You know, she's got a daughter who's, you know, a teenager. Don't do that, man. Don't carve up the family like that. There's still a glimmer of hope that you guys can get back on track. Take that crap offline and deal with it. That would be a man.
Is there a glimmer of hope after that 2-piece he got from? Is there really? He can't. Well, I don't think he can see a glimmer because that eye is closed.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Again, if you're a real man, you just don't do that, man. I mean, that's our generation, or I don't know if it's even our generation. We happen to share that if you do that, you get a check mark because you always want to think about the kids. Yeah. Especially if your ass has been to jail numerous times and left your wife holding the bag over some craziness. Some stupid decisions you made, and you have the nerve to start calling your wife out, who has been taking care of these damn kids while you've been doing what you're doing. So it's kind of like you lose points, man. And again, I don't like to judge, but I'm judging in this case, and that's
your verdict. So a couple more stories. Last week it came out that Halle Berry has to pay Gabriel Aubrey, her daughter's father, $16,000 a month in child support. That's like $200,000 a year. And she has to pay $115,000 retroactive payments and $300,000 for his lawyer fees. I mean, that all aside, the $16,000 a month, he doesn't even have custody of the child. So I know when it comes to child custody and child support, it varies from state to state. There's not one federal law that addresses payments and things like that. But I didn't know you could get child support for a child you don't have custody of. I mean, is it shared custody? I just find that kind of odd.
Who's his damn lawyer? Ironsides?
It's interesting. It's interesting though how people are quick to choose sides. Men are like, yeah, man, about time, and the women are like, he weak. He ain't no man.
That's ridiculous. You know? It is ridiculous, actually.
But they don't know anything about the story, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know anything about the story. But it just seems kind of odd how if you don't have primary custody, how you're getting $16,000 a month in child support, and that's the first thing I thought about too. Mark, he must have a hell of a lawyer because it's like, wow, that's strong.
He hit it twice. Damn, he hit it twice.
Hallelujah. Damn.
Man.
You know, this makes me think of J-Lo, who has had some high-profile boy, put those two images together. She's had some high-profile relationships, and the reason why I mention her is because she just broke it off with somebody and just started dating some dancer. So, you know, maybe she's getting her cougar on or whatever the case may be. And like you, I perused a story that kind of alluded to the fact that she would probably have some kind of agreement in place if the relationship goes any further, because maybe in the past she's also been, you know, paying room and board. Yeah. You know, so I think let's put it this way: some women, especially women of that stature who've made a lot of money, can operate the way that maybe some men have traditionally operated. Look, here's the deal: we're kicking it.
Yeah.
And I'm a female Donald Sterling. You know?
Yeah.
I got a house for you. Here's a ride. All I need you to do is be here Thursday at 9 p.m. You know what time it is. I mean,
so
that's not far-fetched.
Yeah. Let's go back in time to a time when Mark and I were working together. It was 20 years ago of the O.J. Simpson, the famous Bronco ride. And, a lot of people, 20 years later, do you remember where you were when that happened? I do remember because I was getting ready to watch the NBA Finals with a friend of mine, and it got sidetracked. Actually, we were getting ready to watch it, but we were watching CNN, and then Larry King was on, and he was like, "Can't believe what we're seeing," and we forgot all about the NBA Finals.
I remember a split screen.
Yeah, well, but originally, I mean, we forgot it was even on TV. We were just glued to CNN watching what was happening all these years later. Today, I watch Outside the Lines on ESPN, and there's some audio they played of O.J. in the back seat of the car talking to Tom Lang, one of the detectives in the homicide case, where O.J. tells him, "I just want to go to Nicole's grave," and he was alluding to the fact he was going to kill himself there. Then he wanted to do it at home. And my wife says, "Well, that sounds like a confession." And I got to thinking, Mark, when you and I worked together, we had Carl Douglas on after the fact.
Yes, not an attractive man, by the way.
Well, that aside, but Carl Douglas off the air told us that it wasn't possible that O.J. could have killed those two because O.J. is a very frail man. O.J.'s the injuries that he sustained, the pounding his body took playing in the football league, there is no way possible O.J. could have jumped a fence. And there's no way that O.J. could have taken out Ron Goldman, a man who seemed to be very physically fit. I mean, you remember when he told us these things?
Yeah.
I mean, he was saying these things to us, and so I've never really believed that O.J. Simpson killed these people. I have nothing to base it on. There's more evidence that points to him. I'll give you that.
Well,
that doesn't point to him, but it's just based on what Carl Douglas told us. It seems highly unlikely that he could have been physically fit enough to kill two people.
Well, and the guy,
go ahead, Mark.
Well, you saw the story. The guy, the story about the guy who confessed to doing it. Then I think he just went to death row, or he just got put to death, right? But he basically, his brother said that he did it years ago, and then he finally said before he got put to death he did do it. But that hasn't really got a lot of coverage.
Right.
And
well, because as a country, we are so convinced that this man killed these two people that we don't want to hear anything else.
Well,
talk to the hand. We don't want to hear about anything else. That's it. It's shut down.
When we had Carl Douglas on, I think also the things that he talked about was the fact that all the blood they kept talking about was like a very minuscule amount of blood. The blood in the car was combined, so it was almost like a setup because the blood in the car was like less than a drop of blood, and it was a mixture of Nicole's and Ronald Goldman's blood in the car, which is kind of weird because how would that even happen?
Right.
They said the other piece, and the piece that always stood out in my mind was the cuts on OJ's hands. The people, when he was flying to where he was going to Chicago, they did not remember him having cuts on his hands, and that always stood out to me because he signed autographs.
Right.
So if you had cuts on your hand, and those are the things that always stood out in my mind. And Tony, actually, I forgot about that. But when we talked to Carl, he said that, but the physical piece. But
I remember when the trial began. Watching it at Magic 108 on a little gathered around somewhere. It was on every day.
Yeah.
And I remember, remember the courtroom, remember Judge Alito and all that stuff. And I remember a statement being made, probably part of the opening statement, where, and this is really obscure, but you follow me. They used to always pan up to the seal that was in the courtroom. And, they would pan down when, the court was back in session, whenever Judge Alito was like, this part can be broadcast, this part cannot be.
Sure.
And they hadn't cut the audio, and there was something that talked about another person in that moment, and they hadn't cut the mic down. And I was like, there it is right there. It was part of an opening statement, and it was something that really wasn't publicized. And I was like you, Tony, there was just a little nugget that was like, I don't believe O.J. did this. when it's all said and done. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a crime scene CSI person. But, you know, obviously they did a great job of, to what Mark was saying that the blood, they sold the fact that the blood was everywhere. Right. When it really was not a lot of blood. Now, the crime scene where Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson were killed, that was obviously a mess. You know, they were butchered. But, you know, it was that part, obviously, yes.
Oh, you know what? And that was the other one, Troy. When we saw, and I think, I don't mean, when you saw the crime scene and all the blood, and then to think of a vehicle, and it was like a drop of blood.
Yeah, right. Considering all the blood that was there.
Like, we've all stepped in some mud or stepped in something, and you just like, man, that does not match up. That sound, and it's almost, now I also felt like it could have been a thing where if OJ could have done it, but they tried to set him up, and it kind of backfired, you know, because they didn't feel like he had enough evidence, so they started to add drops here and drops there. But I guess at the end of the day, OJ's an idiot, and after getting off,
he decides to do the armed robbery thing. And
what do you say? My father-in-law always says the universe never forgets, so OJ's stupid.
But I also read a little bit of an article that says that 20 years later, more black folks think he's guilty now than they did 20 years ago.
Yeah. They've been worn down. And I think it's the persona, like Mark's alluded to, of how OJ carried himself after that. He was vindicated. He got off in a situation where most black people don't. Yeah. Especially at that time. So, and you know, you had the Johnny Cochran piece, you know, all of these things working, and finally justice was served.
Well,
at least we felt. And then, you know, like you know, he spent the next 10 years acting a damn fool.
But I wonder if the part about how black folks think he's guilty now more so than they did 20 years ago, maybe over the course of 20 years, the emotion has come out of it, and they're looking at evidence now, and now they feel like maybe he did do this. I don't know. I can't like read everybody's mind. I'm wondering if that's a possibility though 20 years later, because we do everything with emotion.
Well, that's true.
We criticize people based on emotion. We don't like a law based on emotion. Everything's based on, so when you take emotion out of it, which is almost impossible to do, but over the course of 20 years, maybe people are looking at what they see now as evidence. Although Mark made some good points about, you know, you got to question the evidence, and I would expect nothing less from Mark, because Mark questions everything. So,
well, and as somebody who does, you know, Mr. Conspiracy Theory, that is one thing I will say, and you guys both know me as a friend and work together. I'm always, you know, people don't be paying attention. They don't really go deep. They just kind of look at the surface. And so I'm not surprised if people could feel that way, like you said, Troy, because that's what you've been getting too, the propaganda, the stance. Mm-hmm. But people don't even go the step further to look for their own selves on anything.
Right.
And so I'm not even just talking about OJ. I'm just saying in general, people, if it's something to save their life, like our health, people don't go, what exactly is the difference between organic and so-and-so? You know, they'll just be like, they'll see a report and somebody say it on the news. They go, see, told you. See, I ain't paying that extra money for that. It don't help. It don't matter. So that's how people kind of are, you know.
Right, right. Well, that's our show. That's our Men On, and we're going to leave it right there. Lots of topics we covered. You can comment, leave a comment down below if you'd like. You can also, let's see, wait a minute, let me do this right here. You can also subscribe, give it a thumbs up, share it, repost it, whatever you got to do. It would be much appreciated. I'm Tony Scott. That's Troy Johnson. That's Mark Clark. We are Men On, and we'll see you next week.